This episode was made in partnership with Miscreations Brewing Company. Stop by for a drink. 6 Center Square, Hanover, Pennsylvania. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dr. Quack podcast. I am here with City Councilman Heath Chesney. How you doing there, Heath?
Good. How are you? Very nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming on the
Right
show.
on.
You know, I got some questions here I'd like to ask here. So, how long have you lived in Hanover?
Well, I lived in the Hanover area, I would say probably about 17 years now.
Wow.
I bought my house here in the borough maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm originally from Maryland and grew up there in Carroll County in the Sykesville-Eldersburg area. And when I turned about 20 years old, moved to Chicago and chased my now wife out there. We were high school sweethearts, and her dad got a job and sent her away. And my puppy love said, I can't live without you. So I moved out there, and we spent some time out there. And then when I decided to move back, my parents had sold their house in Eldersburg and built a place up in New Oxford. So I moved up there or moved back there and looked around for a while, and we found a little apartment in McSherrystown. So we stayed there for a while, and then we decided we wanted to put down roots. And my wife, being from Chicago, felt that the borough provided that kind of city vibe that she kind of has grown accustomed to and enjoyed. But it was still close to my roots in Maryland, and my parents that are up here now. So we found a house in the borough and have been here since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how does she like it from Chicago coming here to Hanover?
Well, considering when she was a kid, she was really crawling from the bus stop dodging gang fire. She loves it. But that was obviously the early 90s, which was not a great time for Chicago. No, she loves it. I mean, it's a walkable town. Plenty of parks to stop along the way. Super friendly, clean, safe. It really is the perfect town.
So what made you get into politics?
I mean, I'm a bit of a salesman, so there's always that silver tongue aspect to any politician, right? So it was a little bit of that. The main reason was my dad was the town fire chief for many years where we're from down in Maryland, and seeing him on the news and seeing the things that he was doing for the community and the outreach and purchasing new equipment and managing the budget, it's something that I always kind of followed. I actually still have a whole lot of clips from the newspapers that I saved when I was a kid, just seeing him in there. And knowing that legacy was always there for me to show my daughter that her grandfather was doing that, kind of made me feel like it's something that I wanted to do. So I kind of looked around and I saw that the whole politics thing was going on in town. There were some seats open, so I started looking around a little bit. I spent about, I would say, 6 months investigating, this is my town now. Because I had just moved in like that winter. Wow. And the elections were up, and I was like, I'm not going to get involved. So I kind of attended a bunch of council meetings and some committee meetings and kind of looked around, and I determined, being a new homeowner, young homeowner with a new family in the borough, there was virtually zero representation for new families here. And if I was going to literally put down roots and this was going to be my investment, because, coming out of 2007 and being at that time 32, 34 years old, something like that, it was savings, and it didn't exist. This was going to be I had to invest. So I decided to get involved and realized that there's a lot of families moving in. I was running into friends from Maryland almost every day, bumping into them in the grocery stores because they were moving up here. And I decided, I think we need some representation. And I had a lot of really great ideas that I thought would be good for the borough, and decided to run. It was really, really well received. Shockingly enough, some of my biggest proponents were older residents, which I was not prepared for, which we have a colossal amount of older residents with a vast library of knowledge and experience, just the ebbs and flows of how this borough has been. Those folks are actually still here, and I kind of took that as a badge of honor that those folks were excited at the prospect of me actually representing the borough and them in the first ward. So so I ran and I got on and kind of took things on the first year, and understanding how, being from Maryland, a Commonwealth system here in PA is different. It's colossally unique. There's only 3 states in America that are a Commonwealth system. So it took a while to get used to that first year and understanding, what we can and can't do. And, they really leave a lot up to the municipalities as far as assessing fees and ordinances and things like that. It's pretty wild. So it took a year getting used to that. And then the second year, getting my feet wet with committees and making motions. I was really proud of our large vehicle ordinance, as nerdy as it sounds. A lot of folks in town, were huge safety issues for large trucks being parked, on intersections and things like that. And I had my own struggles with that even on my street. So we got that passed, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, we actually can make stuff happen. Yeah. So it really got me really motivated, and off I went. So I'm well into my term, and I think we're really doing good things.
Definitely. So, we were talking about, professional wrestling, how you used to watch in the past.
Man.
So who was your favorite?
Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash, big sexy.
Kevin Nash was my man. I mean, because he was tall, right?
Yeah, 7-footer.
And he was a good looking dude. And I'm like, that's how I want to look. And obviously it didn't turn out, but he just had that, and he was part of that whole. And he really was what I loved about him. And I call him Razor Ramon still to this day.
Scott Hall.
When they used them as the vehicle for the merger, and how well they played that off. I mean, I bought that gimmick hook, line, and sinker. When they were in the crowd, was that Monday Night Raw, or I can't remember when they first showed up they were just sitting there like front row at
at Nitro, yeah.
And I'm like, what are those two? There's a WCW guys. Why are they in the crowd at WWF at the time? And I was like, my mind was, because then we were playing along. This is fun to follow. But when that happened, I'm like, maybe this is full on. Maybe this is legit. And it got me so back into it. And so those wars between Turner and the McMahons, it was just, man, what a golden era for wrestling.
It really was. I mean, even non-wrestling fans were watching.
Huge. My dad and just my mom, just people, and all the neighborhood kids getting together, and we would just rotate basements, throughout the week, and everybody shared a pay-per-view, and everybody was cool with it, and we got pizza, and I mean, we were just talking. My dad just brought that up the other day because one of my best friends came up just to hang out. And he goes, man, seeing you two, just talking and just laughing about it, just reminds me of all those times in the basements you guys would, and then my youngest brother, he's like, yeah, you guys would suplex me and you were putting me in scorpions. And we went to, my highlight is our banner got on TV. It was,
really?
It was Great American Bash. I think it was Great American Bash. And it was whatever one was the annual one for WCW, big event, one of their annual things, and they always did it in Baltimore.
Yeah, that was the Great American Bash.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so we went there, and we were there was 11 of us, and we were just over the moon. And we had gotten a sheet, like an oversized king-size sheet, and we spray painted on it the house that Sting built. And we didn't even, my best friend is still to this day a colossal Sting fan. And we got seats on purpose, over the rail, and we hung it. And we got on TV, and we're like, oh my, we just lost our minds that they featured our banner. And apparently he had debuted there in his early days, or he won a title there or something, and we didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So they actually used our banner to speak to some of Sting's history. So that was pretty cool. We met a lot of guys, just getting there obviously super early and learning about where they stay at and chasing their limos and stuff like that. And but it was really more about just everyone getting together and just having a blast and following along. And Stone Cold versus The Rock, because he changed names a couple of times. But like, and then realizing like I hadn't even realized, because my uncles got us into wrestling when I was little. I remember my uncle first going to his first wrestling, and he had his Hulkamania shirt that was rippable. It was already pre-cut, and he was like a super Hulkamaniac. And I remember kind of started picking up there, like even like for like the Ultimate Warrior, and watching the Saturday morning cartoons that WWF did, and kind of follow along from there. And then even just like years later, like I listened to a Sirius XM show called Jim Norton and Sam Roberts, and Sam is actually one of the commentators for, I don't know what specific for WWE, but he's involved with WWE as a commentator.
Yes.
And they actually interviewed Sergeant Slaughter, and it was one of the best interviews. It was incredible to hear about that whole gimmick that they pulled with him turning. They actually had to have the McMahons actually paid for like 6 months of 24-hour security for him and his family.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't eat anywhere. They were kicking him out of diners as they were traveling, because people thought this was full on. Like, how could you do this? So it was one hell of a work. I'll give him that.
Yeah. It definitely, opened some people's eyes. And yeah, I remember hearing about this. I was like, man,
it was insane.
So who was your least favorite wrestler? Who was the one you always wanted to see?
Disco Inferno.
Disco Inferno.
I hated him with a passion. You know what I was like? I didn't even like what was the guy that was like the pimp?
Oh, the Godfather.
I didn't like him at all.
You didn't like the Godfather?
No, I wasn't a big fan of Godfather. I'll tell you. No, he was more gimmick than he was wrestler, so it was just too gimmick heavy, and I really didn't get into him too much.
He had all the ladies though.
Well, yeah, they were contractually obligated to appear with the Godfather. Let's be honest. Who was the one? Oh God, who was the one that was the male porn star?
Oh, Val Venus.
God, I hated him too. It was just like, but then I was like an awkward, like 17, 18-year-old. I'm like, that's weird. So so that was one. I loved Goldust. I loved everything about that gimmick. You can tell kind of like the vein that I'm in. Always a big Bret Hart guy. The Hart Foundation. Early on, Brutus the Barber Beefcake I liked.
The hot cutting and strutting.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like the older guys like that I didn't like. I loved them all back then, like in the late 80s.
Yeah.
There wasn't one I didn't like. Like it was fun to boo the heel, but I still liked them. You know what I mean? So I didn't like Owen Hart, especially like the Hart Foundation, God rest his soul. Only because they just felt like he wasn't Bret. He was the dollar store version of Bret Hart. He always was going to be. There was nothing that was going to stop that, unfortunately. So, but I never really got into him. Oh God. Who was the one? So I love that you know every single one of these. I'm gonna have you ever with me now. Who was the Papa Shango?
Oh yeah, that was actually the Godfather, early gimmick.
Was it really?
Yes.
Yeah, he was huge.
Yes.
I had no idea. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
I knew I was gonna learn stuff here today. Aside from Nash, it was always the Undertaker. I mean, to this day, if I ever met him, I'd probably cry. Like, he was the coolest. And that, like, Dead Man Inc., like, that whole thing, oh my God, when he had that motorcycle all the time.
I mean, it was hard for 25 years. He went from the Dead Man, the Undertaker, being, right there in all black, and then coming the biker, and then going back to
Yes, like that whole evolution. If he didn't do such an amazing job that first part, because you just bought into, okay, the guy's dead. Like, yeah, there he's on the bike, there he is. He doesn't look dead. The hair's not in front. The whole Kane storyline, which when that jumped the shark when he took his mask off, right? And like he wrestled without it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was over that.
Yeah, because you said you stopped watch wrestling, after the Attitude Era.
It wasn't too far after that. I think when Stone Cold really blew his knee out bad, I think we started to pull away. Just life stuff. Just got, and I moved away. When I moved to Chicago, and at like about 20 years old is when I really stopped watching because I wasn't around my friends anymore. So it was really right around, like 01, 02 is when I stopped watching because I was on my own now. So pay-per-view was out of the question because my parents aren't paying for it anymore. So it wasn't like I could really spur that, and we were buying all of them. So I watched it a little bit when I moved to Chicago, but I started, just to pull away. So I remember when he blew his knee out. I'm trying to think of what the tail end of the sagas. I was a Wolfpack guy.
So you're red and black versus
I was red and black.
All right.
Oh, forever. So, and all my friends we were all Wolfpack. And you know what's crazy is I actually started, so I do a lot of traveling. I for my work and for leisure, I love to just jump in the car. We actually just did an over 2,000-mile driving vacation all through the South. We hit all the southern states and got a flavor for the states, and went to Woodford Reserve Distillery and saw the Kentucky farms and the horse stables, and went all through Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, all through the South. And doing that gives me, a unique perspective on downtowns and what other folks are doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure where I was going with that. I forget what I was saying.
No, I understand it. Yeah, so, I gotta, did you ever go to a live event?
Yeah, we did some house shows early on because we really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. So we did some house shows. It was always in Baltimore. We didn't really go anywhere else. So we did some house shows. We did some Raws as they came through Baltimore. My best friend's very close friend that he grew up with, he actually is a double lung transplant survivor. And he was a huge wrestling fan like we all were. So he got to a lot of his Make-A-Wish stuff and a lot of dream things revolved around wrestling. So he got to meet everybody. So Goldberg and Mark Henry and The Rock, and he got to go backstage. So while he was doing that, we got the seats. So we got really good seats. Every time Nick was able to kind of go with us, and he was like, "You guys got to come with me." So we were able to do that. But like I said before, my biggest story was the Great American Bash down in Baltimore, and that was also when Master P was involved.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yes.
With Rey Mysterio and all them.
Oh my God.
God, that was so good. So that was popping, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, there was nothing like in a live event. And every so often I'll watch the big clips, like when Ronda came on, I started kind of paying attention to see, because I'm a MMA guy. Yeah. So I'm an MMA guy, and when I saw her kind of move over, I was excited for the wrestling fans. And I also knew she was a big wrestling fan as well, so I knew she was going to pop so well over there. So did Ken Shamrock. I mean, it was kind of like he kind of blazed the trail, I think, for her a little bit.
Yeah, Dan Severn as well.
Dan Severn, obviously, when they did that real match, they're actually going to punch each other. I watched that. We bought that gimmick full on. So just kind of watching that happen from a distance and realizing just how it's just as insane as ever, if not more. The fever's there, all the fans are there, and to the point where, like I was saying before, I do a lot of traveling and all, and vintage, true, and you probably are sitting on a gold mine. Vintage, true, wrestling shirts.
Yep. This one here.
These things,
the Macho Man,
these things a real NWO shirt is going for like $65.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's insane. It's just, and because I started looking at concert shirts, because all the cool kids in Brooklyn are wearing vintage, but it's like pseudo ironic. Like, everyone's wearing like vintage, like Whitney Houston tour shirts and this and that. And I'm like, I want a vintage Reba McEntire tour shirt. It's super ironic, and I love Reba. So I started looking them up, and they're like $100, $125, and I'm like, this is insane. But that's fashion, I guess. I mean, I'm not too into it. I'm a follower, obviously, but when you start to see like some of these true vintage, like even like old school, like early Austin 316 shirts, where they were just like mass produced. Like,
yeah, the smoking skull on there.
Even this, just a blank front. Just a blank front. Like, I would love to find a true vintage like DX shirt that had like the suck it on the back. And can you imagine that would go over so well, and people would just lose their minds. So I'm keeping my eye out for one of those. But it's part of our culture. It really is, and I celebrate it as kind of who we are, and it's part of, I consider it part of our way of life almost.
Yeah, very Americana there. I mean,
big time.
Yeah. So, all right, I've got some fans' questions. These were questions that were brought in to me from some of the people from Hanover. So I've got some.
I'm glad I got a beer.
See, you got a beer. You're good to go. Okay, so I have one on mask right here. They want to know about the parking in the borough. Is there any way to fix that? There's a lot of people that are having difficulty finding parking spaces.
Yeah, I think early on, I would, let's say as recent as 2 years ago, I would tell you, just walk a block, get over it. I still will probably tell you that, but I will say that it is a clear and present concern. We have to do something. The problem is, if you look around downtown, we are locked. Where do I put a parking garage?
Right.
I certainly can't afford one in the borough as far as the municipality straight up paying for a parking garage. They're colossally expensive. You wouldn't think so. Doing what I do for a living, I kind of get a glance at valuations on when buildings are built, and these things are expensive. But we will not be able to continue to thrive without a parking garage. That's just the reality. I'm fully aware of that. It's a matter of us identifying the right spot and probably acquiring that property and doing what's called a private-public partnership. So what that means is it's private and public monies. So we would essentially buy, I'm just gonna throw it out there, just as a wild whim, and say the theater. So we buy the theater, we level it.
Right.
We turn around to a developer who builds parking garages and say, we will land lease this property to you for $1 a year for the next whatever, if you can put a parking garage on here. And they go, yeah, sure. Boom, we get a parking garage, private, public. We could try to attract them to do it on their own. Usually doesn't work like that. In that vein with parking, it usually is private, public. We are in the best shape we've ever been in to attract a parking garage. Folks don't really realize that it's a money-making venture, sometimes for the municipality, sometimes for private money. But because the business, if you want a parking garage, support your downtown. Support your downtown, because the more businesses that are here, the more that the people that build parking garages see, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people here, and they're having difficulty finding parking. There's data. We've done 3 parking studies that determines today there's ample parking. I do not believe that's going to be a long-term answer. I think that's rapidly becoming, for the good, yes. For good reasons, it's rapidly becoming less and less of data that can be accurately used, which is fantastic. I think once McAllister is finished, and once the Montgomery Ward building gets finished, if we have the restaurant that wants to move in down the street, that's serious. It's a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, and folks want to move in and put their businesses in here every day. We're going to be at critical mass sooner rather than later. I believe that wholeheartedly. But the answer is to that question, we're aware of it. It's something that we want to do. There is no opens. We're almost out of room in the borough as a whole.
Yes.
So as it relates to downtown, we absolutely do realize that there's a need and we want to provide that solution. It's just a matter of finding the right place and time to do it with the right folks involved with the right monies. But I will say, if you want a parking garage, be in the way. Take up a parking space if you want a parking garage downtown.
Makes sense. With the mall, there seems to be a lot of lack of business, lack of retail. Do you know what they're going to do with the mall?
So it's really unique. Again, doing what I do for a living in construction, I have a unique perspective identifying property use, property valuations, and those swaths of land are colossally valuable, to the point where you'll have commercial property groups just sit on a dead mall for a decade because it's still worth a colossal amount of money because it's zoned that way. There's so much acreage, so they'll just sit on it. So the up and down of a mall, it obviously is a tired model. Spoiler alert, brick and mortar is coming back in a major way. If you look at any trend, will tell you that.
Yes.
For hipsters, for what they are, love old tiny bikes and brick and mortar businesses. So and that's what they like. So it really is. It's a private business, so it's entirely up to them. We do have them on alerter program, which means if that developer decided to do something with that property, we would actually prorate their taxes. I wasn't initially, well, I'm still not really for that, only because I know how those properties work, and they're gonna invest no matter what. They have to. Most of them are publicly traded companies, and they have to invest to show investors that they're doing, advancements. But nonetheless, if that developer wanted to level that thing and put it in a real nice promenade and sidewalks and fountains, they could actually get tax deferment to do so. So the incentivization is there for that developer to do whatever they wanted with that property.
Okay, I got two more for you.
Yep.
The latest, we're out here in front of the square. I know you guys can't see it, but the square is right out here in front of us. They're talking about turning this into a circle. Do you have anything?
I think I've made it pretty publicly known that I'm pro-square. I think I'm pro-circle when it comes to all the data there. It shows a circle is safer, more efficient, yada, 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 yada. Mm-hmm. I get that. Circles have their place. Okay. I don't think a circle has its place here. We have businesses that are dependent upon stop and go traffic. We would lose all of our civic space. We would lose the hometown feel of having events on our square. And I don't think necessarily it being a square is the sole problem for traffic. I think it's the 8 lights. I think it is lack of some bypass options. I think a lot of things, but I tell you what, the last thing I want to do is have Maryland money fly through this town. I want them stopping and looking, going, what is that? Wow, that's cool. Look at this. Because as they head to Lancaster, I was one of those people. As a family, I want them stopping and spending their money here.
We have a question out in the audience here.
Hi.
What are you drinking?
So this is the Illumination. It was probably, it's a cornerstone beer here from Miscreation. Fantastic sweet beer. I'm a sweet beer guy. Really sweet, a real good, like a berry flavor. I'm a sour beer guy. They've started to introduce some sours here. But the Illumination's been a great, old reliable standard that still really has stood the test of time through trends. I think they celebrated their 4-year or 5th-year anniversary here.
Yes.
And in my opinion, the Illumination was just ahead of the curve for the style that it is, that it has lasted well into its 5th year of being really a fantastic, sweet, easy drinking beer.
And I'm drinking your New England IPA because today is IPA Day.
It
is.
is.
Did not know National IPA Day.
It is.
So
Yep.
I'm telling you, this is incredible. This is a great place out here, 6 Center Street. If you are in Hanover, come
Please.
check it out. Come grab a drink. Let me tell you, my first time here, and I'm highly impressed. Yep. All right. And I got one more question here for you. Actually, I got 2 more. I'm sorry. The Eisenhower Drive project.
Yeah.
What is going on with that?
So the Eisenhower Drive Extension Project is a project to alleviate the traffic as it goes through McSherrystown.
Yeah.
I don't go through McSherrystown, so I go through there very, very early if I'm heading out to look at jobs out in Northern Virginia. But the data shows that it's clogged. Folks here in Township and abroad, as more Marylanders move up here, a lot of them do work in Frederick, a lot of them do work in Northern Virginia, so they're heading out that way. So it keeps getting worse and worse. The extension was always meant, because this project was long on the books. There's manhole covers you can see going through cornfields, that an extension would be made to bypass McSherrystown and dump out further down on the other end of town for folks to take to expedite their way around town, which would alleviate traffic. I think it's a sound option. I know the municipalities that it impacts have shown favor for it. From what I'm told by the county, which I would encourage them to show opposition for the TSM project, which is apparently with any state project, you have to provide an alternative to the preferred design. Their alternative is to take all truck traffic, tell them to make a left off of Eisenhower and bring them all the way down pretty much to the library and make a right right there at the library. So colossally ineffective, doesn't do anything to address McSherrystown personally, puts them in a very bad spot, and really folks are just going to, it's a block and a half. Okay. They're just going to come to the square.
Right.
They're going to come to the square, and it's going to create a colossal amount more traffic when you encourage them and tell them to bring their trucks and traffic into the square. It's just a bad, flawed design.
Makes sense. I mean, all right, one final one. What's your favorite part of Hanover?
Man, you asked that way too late because I see the guy doing this.
I know. He's giving me the clock.
Man, there's so many awesome parts of this borough. I'm going to keep it to the borough because if I talk about Hanover abroad, we'll never get an answer out of me. Man, it really is. You know what? I find a lot of, I really enjoy my walks up Broadway. We've got a lot of Civil War homes that are original to the town. So I really enjoy that stretch of Broadway. I love my ward, the first ward, a lot. There's so many beautiful little properties where folks have spent decades manicuring their lawns, gardens galore, backyards that make me incredibly envious. But really, it's just, I don't know, I thought about trying to, the other day as I was going through Nashville, they do a good job of their neighborhoods. They've kind of curated them into characters and their vibe, and I think maybe we should do that. But it's so cohesive. There's great pieces everywhere. No matter where you turn, there's something really beautiful to see. There's folks that care, that love their neighborhood. I love all of it. I'm everywhere. It's such a jive answer, but I should have thought about it. I knew you were going to probably ask me that, but
it's an honest answer. That's what's important in my opinion. I'd like to thank you once again for coming on the podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I also want to thank Miss Creations for letting us be here, for letting us have the show. Let me tell you, 6th Center Street, if you're in Hanover, Pennsylvania, this is the place to be. I'll tell you, your IPAs and your margaritas, they're always good.
DDP.
Like, subscribe, check it out. My next episode will be next week. We'll be talking about the NFL, and we'll be talking about SummerSlam. So stay tuned, folks. Thank you for tuning in.